Kirk secretly divorced Rasheeda 5 years ago, but the world never knew. That's right, while millions of fans tuned in to Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, thinking they were watching a husband and wife navigate fame, family, and infidelity, the truth was far darker and far more calculated than anyone imagined. Picture this: the cameras rolling, producers pushing narratives, Rasheeda smiling through the pain, and Kirk playing the role of the stubborn yet devoted partner. But behind the curtain, behind the headlines, and behind the carefully edited episodes, was a shocking reality: a courtroom signature, a silent separation, and a divorce decree that had already split the couple long before the show made you believe otherwise. Fans are stunned, not just because of the divorce itself, but because of the conspiracy that kept it hidden. How could such a massive secret be buried for so long? Was Rasheeda in on the cover-up, or was she blindsided like the rest of the world? Some say Kirk orchestrated it all to protect his brand, to keep the storyline alive, and to milk the image of being Rasheeda's husband while quietly living a double life. Others whisper that producers knew, networks knew, even close friends knew, but everyone stayed silent, playing their roles in one of reality television's most jaw-dropping lies. Imagine the betrayal: a woman believing she still carried the title of wife, while the man beside her had already erased her legally. Imagine the family dinners, the arguments off camera, the moments when Rasheeda thought something felt off, but couldn't place what it was. Now, with the truth bubbling to the surface, fans are left demanding answers. Why did Kirk keep this buried? What did Rasheeda really know? And perhaps the most chilling question of all, was Love and Hip Hop Atlanta nothing but smoke and mirrors? From the very beginning, the whispers began as nothing more than gossip, the kind of chatter that circles around reality stars every season. But this time there was a darker pulse to it, a suggestion that something fundamental had been hidden. In plain sight, Kirk and Rasheeda had long been paraded as one of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta's most complicated couples. The cheating scandals, the love triangles, the dramatic makeups and staged reconciliations keeping audiences glued to their screens. But what nobody knew was that beneath the lights and scripts and cameras, they weren't even legally together anymore. 5 years ago, quietly, discreetly, and with almost surgical precision, Kirk had walked into a courthouse without Rasheeda at his side and signed the papers that would dissolve a marriage the public still believed was intact. And yet, week after week, he still sat next to her in confessionals, still played the husband role with his children looking on, and still presented the illusion that he and Rasheeda were locked in an eternal battle of loyalty and betrayal. Fans assumed the fights were exaggerated, the reconciliations half-scripted, but what they never could have guessed was that every word came from a place where the foundation had already crumbled. And Rasheeda, whether knowingly or not, was standing on the ruins of a relationship that had already been erased by the law. When the truth began to unravel, the reactions were explosive, not only from fans but from those closest to them. Even Rasheeda's mother, who had often been fiery on the show, reportedly burst into tears when she realized that all the arguments she'd fought to win on her daughter's behalf, their screaming matches, the tears, the moments where she said, "My baby deserves better," had been staged battles in a war that had already been lost. Imagine the sting of it, realizing the man you've defended to the cameras, the man you've berated and cursed on national television, wasn't even technically your son-in-law anymore. It gave every scene new meaning, and fans began to replay old episodes, scanning for signs they had missed, the moments where Kirk seemed just a little too detached, a little too smug, almost as though he knew he had already freed himself, but was milking the storyline for everything it was worth. The betrayal went deeper when insiders began leaking what happened behind closed doors. There were rumors that Kirk had another apartment in Atlanta, not the one shown on television, where he entertained friends and sometimes other women, living as a single man while publicly maintaining the facade of a married life. Producers, some said, knew about it. They turned a blind eye because the scandal was good for ratings, and ratings meant money. Every tear Rasheeda shed, every moment she begged him to change, every time she threatened to leave, it all played out while a divorce certificate sat in a drawer, gathering dust, quietly mocking the millions of viewers who believed they were watching a real marriage disintegrate. But what stung most for fans was the idea that Rasheeda may have been complicit, that maybe she knew and agreed to play along, stringing along the viewers who invested their emotions into her heartbreak. The debates split the fandom. Some swore Rasheeda was innocent, that she too was blindsided and used like a pawn in Kirk's self-serving plan. Others claimed she was just as guilty, using her tears as currency, weaponizing her pain for screen time. knowing all along that she wasn't legally tied to him anymore. Whichever side was true, one fact remained: the family was left divided. Even their children, who had grown up in front of the cameras, began to sense that the dynamic wasn't adding up. Kirk Jr., once vocal about his father's mistakes, reportedly confronted him off camera, shouting, "You ain't even her husband no more. So why you still acting like this?" The accusation shook Kirk, but rather than calming down, he snapped back with a coldness that stunned those in the room, "Because this is bigger than us. This is business. You don't understand that yet." That line became a point of obsession among fans once it leaked online, because it confirmed what so many had suspected, that the marriage had stopped being about love a long time ago, and had become nothing more than a storyline, a product to be sold. A character arc in a show designed to blur the line between reality and entertainment. Rasheeda's own reactions told another story. Friends close to her claimed she would break down in private, whispering through tears that she didn't know how much longer she could pretend. That she felt like she was living in a lie but couldn't walk away because the empire they'd built was tied to the illusion of their marriage. She feared that leaving would collapse everything: the stores, the endorsements, the appearances, and so she stayed, half woman, half character, torn between protecting her pride and protecting her brand. The weight of that decision was crushing, and it showed in the smallest cracks on screen: the way her smile sometimes faltered too quickly, the way her eyes seemed to drift off even as the camera zoomed in on her face. Fans had thought those were just signs of heartbreak, but in hindsight, they were the silent screams of someone who had already been abandoned years ago but couldn't find a way to admit it to the world. The first major confrontation between Kirk and Rasheeda about the secret reportedly happened in a hotel room while the cast was filming a reunion special. According to an insider, Rasheeda cornered him after a day of explosive taping, her voice trembling but firm. "Tell me why. Why'd you do it without me knowing? Why would you take my name off the paper when you knew I would have never agreed?" Kirk, leaning against the dresser with his arms crossed, replied with chilling calm, "Because you would have fought me on it, and I wasn't about to waste years in court. This way, it was clean, and you could still do your thing on the show. You're welcome." That line reportedly broke her. Rasheeda stormed out of the room, slamming the door so hard the producers rushed down the hallway to check on the noise. But when the reunion aired, none of that footage ever made it to TV. What fans saw instead was a watered-down version. A vague argument about trust issues and moving forward, edited into another generic cliffhanger. The cover-up was airtight, but not perfect. Clues began to surface in paperwork that eagle-eyed fans dug up. Marriage records, once accessible, suddenly vanished from public databases. Rumors circulated of sealed court files, of lawyers paid off to keep quiet. A single screenshot of what appeared to be Kirk's divorce decree began making the rounds on fan pages, though skeptics called it fake. Still, the seed of doubt had been planted, and once it grew, it was impossible to ignore. Every Instagram post from Rasheeda and Kirk was dissected, every caption analyzed. When Rasheeda wrote "my partner" instead of "my husband," fans pounced. When Kirk avoided anniversary shoutouts, suspicions mounted. Their silence, once dismissed as normal celebrity behavior, now looked like a carefully constructed wall to keep the truth from spilling out. And the more fans speculated, the more the story grew, twisting into a storm that no network PR team could contain. The most dramatic fallout came when Rasheeda's mother confronted Kirk during a family dinner. Cameras rolling, unaware that the microphones were still hot, slamming her hand on the table, she screamed, "You think you can fool me? You think I don't know what you did behind her back? You took her name off your papers and kept her chained to a lie." The table erupted, children crying, Rasheeda begging her mother to calm down, and Kirk, red-faced, snarling back, "You don't know nothing about my life. Stay out of my business." That raw moment, though never aired, was whispered about in production circles, another casualty of the editing room floor. But once it leaked, fans realized the extent of what they'd been denied. They weren't watching reality television anymore. They were watching a scripted drama dressed in the skin of real people. And the trust between the show and its audience shattered overnight. The secret, once buried, had clawed its way to the surface, and now there was no turning back. What started as quiet whispers had grown into an earthquake, shaking the very foundation of love and hip-hop Atlanta and leaving fans, friends, and even family members questioning everything they thought they knew about Kirk and Rasheeda's so-called marriage. The revelations only escalated as more insiders began to speak, some for fame, others out of a sense of moral obligation. One former crew member, who had worked on set during the height of Kirk and Rasheeda's marital crises, revealed that there were entire scenes scripted to heighten tension while the couple's real-life legal status remained hidden. It was surreal, the source confessed. We'd be filming a heated fight about infidelity or money, and in reality, the marriage had already been legally dissolved years before. The emotions weren't entirely fake, but the stakes were different from what viewers thought. They were playing roles while living a completely separate reality. The more details came out, the more the illusion crumbled. Fans began revisiting episodes with new eyes, spotting micro-expressions, subtle glances, and offhand remarks that suddenly seemed loaded with unspoken truths. Every whispered "I can't believe you" or dramatic pause took on a chilling double meaning. Every forced hug, a mockery of a bond that no longer existed. The show that once entertained millions was now a case study in manipulation, secrecy, and betrayal, with Kirk at the center orchestrating it all like a puppeteer. Meanwhile, Rasheeda's public image began to suffer. While she had previously been admired for her strength and poise, the news of the hidden divorce cast shadows of doubt on her authenticity. Comment sections exploded with debates. Some fans pitied her, imagining the emotional toll of unknowingly living in a charade. Others accused her of complicity, suggesting she had knowingly allowed the deception to continue for fame and financial security. Even celebrities in her circle weighed in subtly on social media, posting cryptic comments that fueled speculation and ignited new rounds of fan frenzy. The atmosphere surrounding the couple became electric with tension, and everywhere the story spread, people could not resist asking the same questions. Why hadn't anyone noticed? How could such a long-term secret remain so perfectly hidden? And most importantly, how much of what they saw on screen had been real? Adding fuel to the fire were reports of the strained personal relationships behind the scenes. Friends of Rasheeda allegedly claimed she confided in them years ago that something felt off with Kirk, but that she could never pinpoint exactly what. One friend revealed she kept saying he was distant at times, that certain conversations didn't add up, but she trusted him. She never imagined he had already erased their marriage from the legal books. The betrayal, compounded by years of emotional investment, was unbearable, creating a whirlwind of emotions that became nearly impossible to manage. Rasheeda, the supposed victim, was now caught in a paradox. Publicly, she remained a central figure on the show, portraying the wronged wife. Privately, she wrestled with a man who had already legally severed their connection, and yet manipulated the narrative to his advantage. Kirk, meanwhile, was not immune to scrutiny. While he maintained the confident, charismatic persona fans had come to expect, sources suggest that the secrecy took a personal toll. Rumors circulated of late-night phone calls, arguments with production executives, and heated encounters with family members. One particularly explosive report claimed that during a visit to his parents' home, Kirk's father confronted him. "You think this is all about TV? This is your life. You're living a lie, and now everyone is paying the price." Kirk, allegedly, stormed out, slamming doors and leaving behind stunned relatives. These hidden tensions underscored the complexity of managing a secret of such magnitude while remaining in the public eye. And they highlighted the dangerous balancing act that Kirk had been performing for years. Every decision carried emotional, legal, and financial implications, and one misstep could unravel the carefully constructed illusion. The psychological strain on Rasheeda reportedly manifested in unexpected ways. Close friends claimed she began to develop anxiety around taping, struggling to deliver authentic emotions while carrying the weight of an unknowable truth. One source described how she would sometimes break down in makeup rooms, hiding tears from the cameras while her co-stars were unaware. It was like she was acting in two different worlds at once, the friend said. She had to play the role of the betrayed wife on TV while also processing the betrayal in real life, and no one was supposed to know. It's a level of pressure that would crush anyone. For viewers, this added a new dimension to past episodes, turning every dramatic confrontation into a haunting scene that now seemed rooted in an unknowable reality. The stakes were no longer simply entertainment, they were human, raw, and devastating. As the story spread, the fan community exploded with theories, some rational, others wild. Reddit threads dedicated to dissecting the couple's history proliferated, with users cataloging moments they now believed were staged or misleading. Every Instagram post, every tweet, Every appearance was scrutinized for subtle hints that Kirk and Rasheeda were not who they had appeared to be on screen. Some fans even went so far as to claim that producers had hired specialists to craft a narrative arc that kept the audience invested. Manipulating emotions through selective editing, misdirection, and calculated timing. Even cast members were implicated, with insiders claiming that some of Kirk's closest friends on the show were complicit in helping him maintain the illusion, ensuring that Rasheeda would remain unaware of the public facade he was cultivating. One of the most dramatic episodes purportedly occurred during a charity gala, where Kirk and Rasheeda were seated together for photos. Observers noticed subtle body language. Rasheeda kept her distance, while Kirk's smile seemed to flicker with something unspoken. Social media erupted the next day with side-by-side images and commentary, fans dissecting every gesture. A particularly bold post claimed that Kirk's hand barely touched hers, a detail seemingly insignificant but loaded with symbolic meaning once the context of the hidden divorce was known. The notion that Kirk could maintain such control over both the narrative and the perception of intimacy shocked audiences. Every staged reconciliation, every forced laugh, every tender moment on television was now under scrutiny. It wasn't just a lie. It was a masterpiece of deception executed over years. Tensions escalated further. When Rasheeda reportedly confronted Kirk in private during a vacation in Miami. According to leaked accounts, the conversation began civilly but quickly devolved into shouting, "I trusted you. I lived in this world believing we were married, believing you were with me, and you were already gone." Kirk's response was reportedly cold and calculated. "I never lied to you about how I felt. The papers changed nothing about us. You wanted this life, and this is the life you got. Don't blame me for making it work." The exchange, preserved in whispers and screenshots from insiders, revealed a chilling mixture of manipulation and justification, showing just how carefully Kirk had maintained both legal and emotional control. Rasheeda left the conversation visibly shaken, while Kirk returned to filming as if nothing had happened, the duality of his life fully intact. Public reactions intensified when snippets of the confrontation leaked online. Fans were horrified and divided, with some expressing outrage on social media, demanding accountability, while others seemed fascinated, almost addicted to the unfolding drama. Memes, reaction videos, and live debates flooded platforms, turning The Secret into a viral phenomenon. Even media outlets that had previously focused on celebrity gossip began to run detailed analyses, breaking down how a reality star could maintain such a massive secret for so long without detection. Commentary ranged from outrage at the deceit to admiration for the audacity and strategy, creating a swirl of emotion and speculation that seemed unstoppable. The family, too, bore the weight of the revelation. Relatives who had stood by Kirk for years were forced to reconcile the image they had upheld with the truth. Friends who had once encouraged Rasheeda to forgive, to stay, to push through the arguments, now found themselves questioning whether they had been complicit in perpetuating a lie. Every holiday, every birthday, every private gathering became a potential minefield, with conversations laced with caution and unsaid truths. The emotional landscape was volatile, charged with grief, anger, and betrayal, reflecting the high stakes of a secret that had now escaped into the public sphere. Fans were left obsessed with unanswered questions. How had the network allowed this to happen? Were there legal ramifications for hiding a marriage status from viewers while profiting off it? Was Rasheeda a victim or a participant? Every new revelation added layers to the narrative, deepening the sense of intrigue and horror. The combination of human emotion, manipulation, and the artificiality of reality television created a story so compelling that it could not be ignored. Viewers felt both scandalized and drawn in, a duality that ensured the saga would continue dominating conversations for weeks, months, and perhaps years to come. This is just the beginning of the tangled web surrounding Kirk and Rasheeda's hidden divorce, the first chapter in a story that continues to shock, enthrall, and divide fans. Every new disclosure, every insider confession, every social media post adds another layer to a narrative so intricate it seems almost impossible to believe. But the truth is unfolding, and as fans dig deeper, they realize that the reality they thought they knew was never reality at all. The lines between truth and performance, loyalty and deception, love and manipulation have blurred beyond recognition, leaving the audience with a sense of awe, disbelief, and a hunger for answers that will not be satisfied anytime soon. As the revelations continued to ripple through the fanbase, the dynamics of Kirk and Rasheeda's relationship took on a new, almost surreal dimension. Behind the scenes, sources reported that the couple's interactions were increasingly tense, laden with unspoken truths that hovered over every shared meal, every family outing, and every appearance on camera. Producers claimed that they were running out of ways to maintain the illusion. The scripted arguments, the staged reconciliations, the carefully crafted confessions, all of it had to be recalibrated to account for the secret divorce. While still keeping the audience emotionally invested, crew members whispered that certain episodes were rewritten at the last minute. Dialogue was re-recorded, and scenes were re-edited, all to ensure that no hint of the legal reality slipped through. But no amount of editing could fully erase the energy in the room, the tension that pulsed in the air whenever Kirk and Rasheeda were near each other. It was as though the cameras, despite their intention to capture entertainment, were now documenting a psychological thriller, a human drama far more potent than anything previously staged. The strain became evident in Rasheeda's social media presence. Once polished and curated, her posts began to exhibit cracks. Captions that once exuded confidence now felt layered with subtle despair. Images of her smiling betrayed a tension in her eyes that fans quickly noticed. Insider reports suggested she struggled to maintain the performative optimism expected of her persona. Friends disclosed that she would often rehearse what she would say in interviews, trying to control the narrative, attempting to shield the public from the truth that had already upended her private world. Meanwhile, Kirk maintained a stark contrast, posting confidently, seemingly unbothered by the storm brewing around him, fueling speculation that he had fully compartmentalized the legal and emotional aspects of the situation. This duality became a source of fascination, as fans debated whether Kirk's composure was a testament to strategic brilliance or cold-hearted manipulation. The fallout from the secrecy wasn't limited to the couple themselves. Their children were reportedly aware of subtle tensions long before the news broke publicly. Insiders described scenarios in which Kirk Jr. would ask questions about why certain family dynamics felt inconsistent with what he had observed, while mini reunions or on-set interactions left him confused. Friends of the family stated that Rasheeda tried to protect the children from the full scope of the truth, often redirecting questions and softening difficult topics. She wanted them to have a normal childhood, one source claimed. But living in a world where their parents were legally divorced and yet constantly performing the opposite on camera created a reality they could never fully grasp. The emotional stakes were immense, adding another layer of tension to the story, as the innocence of children clashed with the adult machinations of fame, money, and secrecy. Meanwhile, the fan community became a virtual battleground, dissecting every small interaction with newfound intensity. Clips of past episodes were replayed endlessly, analyzed 4-minute details a hand held too briefly, a hesitation before a response, a glance that lingered too long or not long enough. Commentary threads speculated wildly, with some claiming that Kirk had subtly hinted at the divorce in ways only a sharp-eyed observer could detect, while others argued that Rasheeda had dropped cryptic clues through her social media captions. The collective energy of the fandom transformed from passive observation to active investigation, with theories proliferating across platforms like wildfire. Every revelation, no matter how small, seemed to feed into an ever-expanding narrative that blurred the boundaries between fact and fiction. Sources suggested that the tension reached a breaking point during filming of a reunion episode, where producers attempted to address ongoing rumors about the couple's status. According to an insider, Rasheeda was initially cooperative but became increasingly agitated as the conversation progressed. It was like watching a dam break, the source said. Her voice shook, her hands trembled, and you could see the emotional weight she carried. She kept saying she wanted to tell the truth, but she was also terrified of what would happen if she did. Kirk's demeanor was reportedly stoic, bordering on defensive, as he navigated the situation with a mixture of charm and calculated distance. The clash, though edited heavily before airing, left staff and observers stunned, highlighting the emotional cost of sustaining such a long-running deception. As the narrative expanded, whispers of additional secrets surfaced. Multiple insiders hinted at financial arrangements designed to keep Rasheeda invested in maintaining the illusion. Some alleged that Kirk had set up contracts, deferred earnings, or other incentives to ensure The truth about Kirk and Rasheeda's marriage was not as simple as the cameras suggested. Behind the polished image, the divorce had remained hidden, creating a system where both of them had a reason to keep the facade alive. Whether the rumors were true or stretched for effect, they added another layer of intrigue, showing the lengths reality stars and their teams will go to protect a brand while quietly manipulating personal relationships. What unfolded wasn't just drama. It was psychology on display: Rasheeda's private battles, Kirk's calculated maneuvers, and the crushing weight of public life combining into a volatile storm. Experts in media psychology called it rare, but fascinating. The mix of hidden legal truths, staged intimacy, and public scrutiny turned into something more than entertainment. It became a story part soap opera, part real-life thriller. Fans couldn't look away. Some felt sympathy, others anger, but everyone was hooked, pulled deeper into a narrative that seemed too carefully engineered to be coincidence. Then came the leaks. Text messages and whispers of conversations spread like wildfire. In one, Kirk was said to have told a friend, "They'll never know. She'll keep playing her part, and will keep cashing in." No one could prove it was real, but the suggestion alone ignited debate. Some dismissed it, others saw it as confirmation of a long-standing conspiracy. The argument only fueled the fire, taking the drama beyond television and into the vast world of online speculation. Every public appearance added fuel to the suspense. On red carpets and in interviews, fans dissected every glance, every pause, every delayed smile. Observers claimed Rasheeda often looked tired, her joy forced, while Kirk stood steady, unshaken, almost too composed. It became a chess match in the public eye, with viewers wondering which gestures were genuine and which were staged to keep the illusion alive. Insiders revealed that even production staff felt the tension. Some crew members urged the couple to tell the truth, warning that secrets cannot stay buried forever. Others blocked such attempts, knowing the financial stakes and ratings were too high to risk. What followed was a world where personal truth, professional duty, and public perception clashed in every frame of the show. By this point, it was no longer about two people. It was about the system of reality television itself. The hidden divorce became both a plot point and a symbol, proof of how narratives can be built, stretched, and sustained without the public ever realizing. Fans, influencers, and media outlets turned the story into a cultural phenomenon. Social media exploded. Podcasts dissected it. Fan pages became investigation forums. What started as a rumor about Kirk and Rasheeda grew into something far larger, a cautionary tale about love, trust, and the blurred lines between reality and performance. The pressure on both of them grew heavier with every leak, every rumor, every new revelation. On set, filming became a high-wire act. Producers demanded multiple takes, guiding Kirk and Rasheeda through emotional scenes that convinced fans of their marriage, even as the truth had long unraveled. Crew members spoke of silent hallways, tense nods, and unspoken history weighing down every interaction. To the audience, the drama looked real. To those behind the cameras, it was survival. Rumors also pointed to financial ties that bound Rasheeda to the illusion. Contracts and deferred earnings allegedly locked her into the role of a wife in the public eye, even as she wrestled with betrayal and exhaustion in private. Insiders whispered that she would confide about sleepless nights, torn between her public image and her private pain. Meanwhile, Kirk navigated the double life with unnerving precision. To fans, he was the devoted husband. In reality, he was legally free, fully aware of the leverage secrecy gave him. Friends described him as strategic to the point of obsession, a man who understood the power of perception and wielded it like a weapon. Caught in the middle of this carefully staged storm were the children, silent witnesses to a spectacle built on secrets. Added another layer of complication and emotional intensity. Kirk Jr. and the younger family members reportedly experienced confusion and distress as they navigated the gap between their parents' on-screen personas and the fragmented reality they perceived privately. According to insider reports, Kirk Jr. confronted his father multiple times, demanding clarity about their family structure and questioning the necessity of sustained deception. Each confrontation reportedly escalated into tense exchanges, with Kirk asserting that the public image was critical for family and financial security, while Rasheeda tried to mediate, torn between protecting her children and asserting her own right to emotional honesty. These interactions, though hidden from cameras, informed the undercurrent of tension that permeated every filmed scene, infusing otherwise scripted moments with subtle hints of real-life conflict that only became meaningful. In retrospect, once the divorce became known, the psychological toll on Rasheeda intensified over time, manifesting in moments that crew members described as cracking under the pressure. During one reported late-night taping session, she allegedly broke down in makeup, whispering to a close friend, "I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. Living a lie, smiling for cameras, pretending everything's fine. It's destroying me." The emotional strain, compounded by the legal and financial complexities of her concealed divorce, created a precarious balance that demanded constant vigilance. She had to deliver performances that matched the narrative Kirk controlled, all while managing her private anguish and the dissonance between her authentic feelings and the role she was compelled to inhabit. Observers noted that the weight of this duality was etched into her expressions, her movements, and even her interactions with other cast members, revealing a human cost that transcended the spectacle of reality television. As the story began to leak further, the fanbase's obsession deepened, fueled by a combination of outrage, fascination, and voyeuristic curiosity. Social media exploded with posts analyzing every previous episode, every interview, every public appearance for clues that corroborated the newly surfaced divorce. Fans created elaborate timelines, cross-referenced public records, and scrutinized interactions, piecing together a narrative that often exceeded the complexity of the televised storyline itself. Each discovery, no matter how minute, became a catalyst for discussion, debate, and speculation, effectively transforming viewers into amateur detectives investigating the machinations of a reality star whose life was part performance, part deception, and fully compelling. The virality of the scandal extended beyond fan pages, with mainstream media outlets weighing in, commentary shows dissecting the implications, and even psychologists commenting on the emotional dynamics at play. The saga had transcended entertainment. It had become a cultural phenomenon. The tension reached a crescendo during one particularly explosive confrontation reported to have occurred off-camera, during a reunion special. According to leaked accounts, Rasheeda challenged Kirk about the hidden divorce, confronting him with a mixture of anger and despair. 5 years, Kirk. 5 years of pretending. I carried this show on my back. I defended you. I loved you. And all the while, I was already out of the marriage. Kirk, maintaining his composure, reportedly replied with an unsettling calm. The marriage was a formality. What matters is the story we told, the empire we built. You wanted this life, and this is the life you got? Don't confuse legality with reality. Rasheeda's response, according to insiders, was visceral, a combination of disbelief, rage, and heartbreak, leaving those present shaken. Though the footage never aired, the intensity of the confrontation leaked in fragments, igniting a storm across social media, further blurring the lines between performance and lived experience. In the midst of this turmoil, additional insiders came forward with reports of subtler manipulations. Kirk allegedly coordinated with producers to ensure that episodes highlighted Rasheeda's emotional vulnerability, while minimizing any moments that could hint at his legal freedom. The editing process, previously regarded as a tool for pacing and drama, became a strategic mechanism for narrative control, reinforcing Kirk's dominance over the public perception of their relationship. Crew members described late nights spent re-editing sequences, rearranging dialogue, and adjusting visual cues to maintain consistency, creating a meticulously constructed facade that masked years of personal upheaval. This level of orchestration suggested a mastery of media manipulation that blurred ethical boundaries, leaving observers both horrified and fascinated by the sophistication of the deception. Meanwhile, the public's engagement evolved into a phenomenon characterized by intense scrutiny and emotional investment. Every social media post, every interview, every minor interaction between the two was dissected for hidden meaning. Fans debated whether Kirk's seemingly casual gestures were calculated, whether Rasheeda's expressions betrayed hidden anguish, and whether moments of reconciliation were authentic or performed. This analysis extended to the minutiae, the way a hand rested on a shoulder, the timing of a smile, the choice of words in a caption. The once passive audience had become active participants, enmeshed in a narrative whose intricacy rivaled scripted drama, proving that the allure of hidden truths can captivate more intensely than any manufactured storyline. As revelations accumulated, the story's cultural significance deepened. Analysts noted that the saga was emblematic of broader truths about reality television, the manipulation of perception, the commodification of personal relationships, and the ethical dilemmas of storytelling when entertainment intersects with human emotion. Kirk and Rasheeda's concealed divorce became a case study in how personal history can be transformed into public spectacle, and how trust between partners, between family members, and between performers and audiences can be weaponized, manipulated, and ultimately fractured. The narrative extended beyond mere scandal, offering a glimpse into the psychological and social mechanics of fame, perception, and control. The unfolding drama also created fractures within the couple's social and professional circles. Friends and collaborators, some aware of the truth, were forced to navigate a minefield of loyalty, secrecy, and ethical consideration. Some allegedly supported Rasheeda in private, offering emotional refuge and guidance, while others were drawn into Kirk's orbit, persuaded of the necessity of maintaining the public illusion. These dynamics generated further tension, creating an ecosystem in which every relationship was measured against the stakes of secrecy, and every interaction was imbued with the potential for revelation or betrayal. In addition, the financial and branding consequences of the revelation became a focal point. Industry insiders speculated that if the divorce had become public earlier, it could have jeopardized endorsements, appearances, and revenue streams tied to the couple's perceived marital stability. Kirk's decision to maintain the facade, while ethically questionable, may have been motivated in part by the desire to safeguard these interests, illustrating the complex interplay between personal relationships and professional imperatives in the world of reality television. The stakes were immense, and the calculated risks were equally high, highlighting the delicate balance between authenticity, performance, and economic survival. The psychological landscape for Rasheeda remained precarious. She was reportedly caught between a desire for personal truth and the necessity of maintaining the public image. The dissonance created emotional volatility, manifesting in moments of vulnerability, frustration, and confusion. Friends described episodes of isolation, where Rasheeda would retreat from filming and social interaction, wrestling privately with the implications of her hidden divorce. Crew members observed that these moments, though invisible to viewers, colored the on-camera interactions, infusing them with subtle undertones that retrospectively suggested the presence of unresolved conflict. Meanwhile, Kirk's own strategy appeared to evolve. Insiders claimed that he became increasingly adept at manipulating perception, using media appearances, interviews, and selective social media engagement to reinforce the illusion of marital stability. Even as the divorce became known to some, he maintained a confident public persona, seemingly impervious to scrutiny, and increasingly controlling the narrative in ways that ensured his actions were framed advantageously. The contrast between his composed exterior and the turbulent reality behind the scenes became a central tension, amplifying the fascination of the fanbase and the broader audience. Fans continued to engage obsessively, generating theories that intertwined legal records, media appearances, and subtle behavioral cues. The level of analysis reached unprecedented depth, with viewers cross-referencing timelines, dissecting footage, and correlating public statements with emerging insider information. The resulting discourse created a participatory narrative, where the audience became active investigators, further blurring the boundary between reality and performance. Every revelation triggered cascading discussions, intensifying the cultural impact of the saga and ensuring that Kirk and Rasheeda's story remained a topic of public intrigue far beyond the confines of a single show. Amidst the mounting tension, the broader implications of the hidden divorce became apparent. The scandal illuminated not only the personal strategies of Kirk and Rasheeda but also the mechanisms by which reality television manipulates perception, exploits emotion, and constructs narratives that can mask profound personal truths. Analysts suggested that the case represented a turning point in audience expectations, highlighting the need for critical engagement with media and the recognition that what is presented as reality may be carefully curated, edited, and controlled. The situation underscored the fragility of trust, the ethical complexity of entertainment, and the human cost of prolonged deception. As the story unfolded further, reports emerged of additional confrontations, reconciliations, and strategic maneuvering behind closed doors. Kirk and Rasheeda, both professionally astute and emotionally complex, navigated these interactions with varying degrees of transparency, manipulation, and self-preservation. Friends and insiders described the oscillation between cooperation and conflict, noting that moments of apparent tenderness were often juxtaposed with sharp disagreements and strategic recalibration. The interplay between authentic emotion and performative behavior became increasingly intricate, offering observers a nuanced portrait of the psychological stakes involved in sustaining a long-term, high-profile deception. Fans and media commentators speculated endlessly about the potential consequences of full disclosure. Would Rasheeda take legal action to reclaim control of her narrative? Could Kirk's reputation withstand the scrutiny of a public that had invested years in a fabricated story? Would the children, once old enough to understand the intricacies of their family's reality, react with anger, confusion, or a sense of betrayal? Each question added to the suspense, amplifying the drama and ensuring that audience engagement remained intense and sustained. The story was no longer merely a televised spectacle. It had evolved into an ongoing psychological, social, and cultural phenomenon. With each passing revelation, the complexity of the narrative grew, reinforcing the notion that reality television, for all its claims of authenticity, often functions as a carefully engineered theater in which personal relationships are manipulated for entertainment and profit. Kirk and Rasheeda's hidden divorce, once a private legal matter, had become a central plotline that exposed the intricate interplay between perception, performance, and public scrutiny. The unfolding saga highlighted not only the personal consequences for those directly involved but also the broader implications for audiences, media ethics, and the cultural understanding of reality and fiction. The ongoing tension, the hidden truths, and the intricate management of public perception coalesced into a narrative of unprecedented intensity. Fans remained captivated, not only by the scandal itself, but by the human stories underpinning it, the emotional cost, the strategic maneuvering, and the ethical ambiguities that defined the lived experiences of Kirk and Rasheeda. As new information emerged, the story continued to evolve, ensuring that engagement remained high, speculation remained rampant, and the cultural resonance of the saga continued to expand, positioning the couple's hidden divorce as one of the most compelling, shocking, and instructive narratives in reality television history. The ripple effects of this concealed separation extended beyond the immediate sphere of the couple, influencing co-stars, production staff, media commentators, and audiences alike. Each new disclosure, whether a subtle social media post, an insider comment, or a leaked message, added layers of interpretation, challenging conventional understandings of celebrity authenticity and the ethics of televised storytelling. Fans oscillated between outrage, empathy, and fascination, compelled by the tension between what had been presented as real and what had in fact been meticulously orchestrated. As the saga advanced, reports emerged that Kirk and Rasheeda had begun negotiating aspects of their public presentation with a new level of strategic precision. Every interview, every photoshoot, every appearance at events, was now considered, in light of its potential impact on public perception. The hidden divorce, while legally settled years earlier, continued to exert influence over their choices, interactions, and media strategies, underscoring the enduring consequences of a secret that had been carefully preserved for half a decade. Observers noted that the duality between public performance and private reality had reached a point where it shaped virtually every facet of their professional and personal lives, a testament to both the power and the peril of concealed truths. In the realm of celebrity culture, fans speculated about future revelations, imagining scenarios in which additional secrets might emerge, casting further doubt on the authenticity of the televised relationship. The possibility of Rasheeda asserting her narrative, Kirk consolidating his control, or other insiders exposing further manipulations kept audiences on edge, ensuring sustained attention and engagement. Each new development carried the potential to reshape public understanding, adding new dimensions to an already complex and emotionally charged narrative. The saga had evolved into an intricate tapestry of secrecy, performance, and emotional intensity, with Kirk and Rasheeda at the center of a narrative that intertwined personal history, legal realities, and media strategy. Fans, commentators, and insiders alike remained captivated, drawn to the tension, intrigue, and human drama that unfolded with each new revelation. The concealed divorce had become more than a legal detail. It had become a catalyst for cultural conversation, a lens through which to examine the interplay of truth, perception, and the human cost of reality television's artifice. Through it all, one truth remained undeniable. The story of Kirk and Rasheeda, hidden divorce and all, had transformed the way audiences understood reality television, challenging assumptions about authenticity, manipulation, and the delicate balance between public performance and private reality. The saga's complexity, emotional intensity, and unrelenting suspense ensured that it would continue to captivate, provoke debate, and spark fascination for years to come. Offering the scandal surrounding Kirk and Rasheeda had by this point become a wildfire that no one could control, feeding itself on whispers, screenshots, and half-confirmed leaks until it transformed from gossip into a living entity that dictated the rhythm of every conversation in Atlanta's entertainment circles, and even beyond. What had started as hushed speculation among diehard fans now sat at the center of mainstream headlines, podcasts, and radio shows, each commentator offering their spin on what had really transpired between the couple, and why it had been hidden for so long. Producers of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta quietly celebrated the rising ratings, though they did so while walking on eggshells, aware that the truth threatened to unravel the very foundation on which the show's current narrative had been built. The revelation of a divorce signed years earlier clashed with the on-screen reality where Kirk and Rasheeda still played out the motions of a fractured but enduring marriage. It wasn't just scandal, it was fraud in the eyes of many fans, who felt manipulated after investing emotions, tears, and even loyalty into a story that turned out to be scripted with cruel precision. But beneath the storm of public outrage and curiosity, what few could see was the cost being borne by the people trapped at the center of the spectacle. Rasheeda, whose career had always been tied to resilience and authenticity, now wrestled with the knowledge that her silence had fed into the illusion, making her complicit in her own pain. Friends close to her revealed she oscillated between numb acceptance and fiery determination. Some nights vowing to expose everything regardless of fallout, other nights resigning herself to the idea that the truth had come too late to matter. She would spend hours replaying in her mind the years she spent upholding the image of a marriage that no longer existed. The interviews where she defended Kirk against accusations, the staged reconciliations after his cheating scandals, the endless comments from fans telling her to stay strong when in reality, the papers had been signed and the foundation already collapsed. The betrayal wasn't just from Kirk, it was from herself, from the part of her that had agreed to play along, for the sake of financial security, the brand, the empire. Kirk, on the other hand, carried himself with the unnerving calm of a man who believed he was still in control. Even as fans dug through archives of footage to point out his contradictions, even as bloggers accused him of manipulating both Rasheeda and the audience, he maintained the same measured tone in interviews, dismissing the chatter as exaggerated noise. To some, his composure came off as arrogance. To others, it was proof of guilt. Insiders whispered that Kirk had contingency plans in place long before the divorce leaks, stockpiling receipts, emails, and contracts that would allow him to defend himself if push came to shove. He wasn't just a man living through scandal, he was orchestrating it, bending it toward outcomes that benefited him most. Every silence, every smirk, every carefully worded statement was designed not to extinguish the fire but to redirect it, to keep his name on everyone's lips. "There's no such thing as bad press," he allegedly told a confidant, "as long as they keep watching." Yet in private, even Kirk couldn't fully shield himself from the fractures his choices created. The children grew colder, more distant, their trust eroded by years of staged affection. Kirk Jr., once his defender in the midst of earlier scandals, no longer hesitated to call his father out, reminding him of the damage the secrecy had caused. What had once been a family business built on television appearances and endorsements was now a battlefield, and every day demanded new strategies just to survive the crossfire. The public's hunger for more details became relentless. Former castmates came forward, some to support Rasheeda, others to accuse Kirk of manipulative behavior on set. Old assistants spoke anonymously to blogs, sharing stories of staged fights, of producers editing hours of silence into bursts of drama, of Kirk allegedly demanding that Rasheeda play her role even when she resisted. Fans pored over these accounts, matching them with scenes from episodes, overlaying leaked timelines with known production schedules. The digital detective work turned into a cultural obsession. Hashtags trended nightly, and YouTube channels dedicated hours-long breakdowns to analyzing the scandal, each trying to piece together the puzzle. What the world didn't realize was that the truth was still far messier than anything they could piece together. From public scraps Behind closed doors, the couple's financial entanglements remained so intricate that cutting ties cleanly was almost impossible. Shared business ventures, endorsements, property deeds, each contract bound them together in ways that no signed divorce papers could truly undo. Rasheeda's boutiques, Kirk's management ties, the shared branding of their names, all of it blurred the lines between personal and professional, making the decision to hide the divorce not just an emotional betrayal but also a calculated business move. But the cost of deception, once hidden beneath money and fame, began to spill into the open. Rasheeda's exhaustion was no longer something she could mask with makeup and bright lighting. Crew members whispered about her arriving late to shoots, her eyes swollen from tears, her patience paper-thin. On camera, she still delivered, still hit her marks, still smiled when producers called for it, but those who knew her recognized the wear in her spirit. "She's breaking," one insider confided. "Every scene is like another brick on her chest, and she's carrying the whole damn building by herself." Yet, for all her pain, Rasheeda still wielded something Kirk underestimated: the sympathy of the public. Fans, particularly women who had followed her journey for years, rallied behind her, seeing in her struggle reflections of their own experiences with betrayal, with holding a family together while feeling alone, with sacrificing personal truth for survival. This groundswell of support became a shield, protecting her from the full brunt of criticism while simultaneously isolating Kirk further in the narrative. He could spin, manipulate, and control, but what he could not erase was the empathy Rasheeda inspired just by existing as a woman caught in the storm. The drama began to evolve into something larger than the couple themselves. Commentators on talk shows debated the ethics of reality television. Was it exploitation for producers to knowingly film a divorced couple as if they were still married? Did fans have the right to feel betrayed when they were sold a fiction packaged as truth? Psychologists weighed in, analyzing the psychological toll of long-term deception, both on the deceivers and the deceived. Even legal analysts began speculating whether there were grounds for lawsuits, with some suggesting that false portrayals tied to financial profit could fall into murky legal territory. For once, Kirk and Rasheeda's personal life was no longer just gossip fodder, it was a case study, a mirror held up to the entire industry. As all this unfolded, the most haunting question loomed: how much longer could the facade last? The divorce was no longer a secret, the damage was done. And yet, the machinery of the show kept grinding forward, demanding more episodes, more confessions, more drama. Rasheeda, pushed to the brink, began to reconsider her silence. Close friends reported that she started drafting notes late at night to herself, outlines of what she might say if she ever decided to tell her side publicly. She envisioned interviews where she would reclaim her narrative, where she would admit to her complicity but also reveal the emotional abuse, the manipulation, the contracts that trapped her. The idea scared her, but it also gave her a spark of strength she hadn't felt in years. The mere thought that she could, at any moment, append Kirk's carefully constructed empire became her secret power. Kirk sensed the shift. He became more cautious, watching Rasheeda more closely, softening his public tone toward her in interviews, subtly attempting to reframe himself as a man working through difficulties with his ex-wife, rather than as the mastermind of manipulation. But to those who had followed the saga closely, the cracks were obvious. Every time he tried to control the narrative, new leaks emerged: old text messages, blurry screenshots of emails, whispers from production assistants who had seen too much. The scandal had reached a point where it could no longer be contained by spin. The truth, messy and painful, was out, and now the world was watching, not to see a happy ending but to see who would survive the fallout. And survival was no longer guaranteed. Sponsorship deals began quietly pulling back, wary of associating with a brand so steeped in controversy. Events that once welcomed the couple as star attractions now hesitated to book them, fearing backlash. The empire Kirk had fought to protect was crumbling at the edges, and for the first time, the power balance began to tilt toward Rasheeda. If she spoke, if she chose to unleash the full scope of her truth, she could not only end Kirk's control but also rewrite the entire narrative in her favor. The decision hung over her like a storm cloud, terrifying, inevitable, and unstoppable once it broke. Through all this chaos, one chilling reality became undeniable: the line between entertainment and exploitation had been crossed long ago, and now the bill was coming due. Kirk and Rasheeda were no longer just reality stars, they were cautionary tales. embodiments of what happens when the pursuit of fame and control eclipses the sanctity of truth, family, and self. Their saga had transcended television, evolving into a modern tragedy where every twist carried the weight of real lives, real pain, and real consequences. And as the cameras continued to roll, as fans refreshed feeds for the next leak, as commentators sharpened their takes for the next headline, one thing was clear: the story was far from over. And the final chapter had yet to be written. And now, after everything we have unpacked, from the secret papers signed in silence, to the staged smiles on camera, to the emotional toll that left a family divided, one question remains: where does this story go from here? Kirk and Rasheeda may have played their roles in front of millions, but the curtain has been pulled back, and the world has seen the truth. The divorce was real. The lies were calculated. The betrayal ran deep. Fans are left stunned, and emotions are running higher than ever. Some feel anger, some feel sympathy, and many are left wondering how much of reality TV is truly real at all. But here's where you come in. Do you believe Kirk was the mastermind behind the cover-up, or was Rasheeda also complicit in protecting the brand? Was this simply a business decision gone too far, or was it a cold manipulation that robbed fans of authenticity? And perhaps the most explosive question: can this couple ever rebuild trust, either with each other or with the fans who supported them for so long? Your voice matters here. We want to hear what you think about this bombshell. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us if you're #team Rasheeda, standing by a woman who carried the weight of lies she never deserved, or #team Kirk, believing that he was only doing what he had to do to protect the empire. Or maybe you think both sides are guilty, both sides are victims, and this entire saga is proof that reality TV was never meant to be trusted. If this story left you shocked, if it made you question everything you thought you knew, then hit that like button to let us know you're with us. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapter in this unfolding drama. Because trust me, there are still secrets waiting to come out, and you'll want to be here when they do. And don't forget to share this video with your friends who follow love and hip-hop, because the conversations are only just beginning. This isn't just a scandal, it's history in the making, and you are part of it.